Adelaide get the crowd up and running, and Rankin and Rochelle and these blokes get their hands on the ball, they might blow this joint to bits tonight.
We know and acknowledge that when Adelaide bring their pressure game and their shape around contest, that it challenges any team. So we have to be right on there. It's been something that's been a strength of our team for a long period of time. It's a great base that we work from, and it gives us territory on the field. So, at the same time, we can't die wondering with the ball in hand. We don't want to move slow. We want to be able to take on that challenge from time to time to be able to give our forwards a good look at it.
Laird, Dawson, Rochelle, Rankin, which one of those four have you put the most time into as a match committee that you need to do a bit of work on to nullify their influence?
We'll have to put a bit of energy in them, but at the end of the day, we've got to make sure that we've got pressure on the ball coming in to give ourselves a chance. If their forwards are getting really good looks, then it'll be a long, hard day for everybody.
Fair to say we found out the hard way. Hello and welcome. Carlton got annihilated at the Adelaide Oval to open gather round, but the platform was primarily set in the first quarter, as the Crows burst out to a 38-point quarter-time lead, scoring 8 goals to 2. Jordan Dawson and Rory Laird led from the front, with Dawson racking up 13 touches and 250 metres gained, and Rory Laird with 16 touches and a goal. But it extends far beyond that. Here's some stats to help you visualise the domination. The Crows were plus 67 in touches, 20 to 12 on inside 50s, had a 77% disposal efficiency to 62%, had a 65% efficiency inside the forward 50, had 8 more clearances, 21 more contested possessions, and led 78 to 27 in uncontested possession. Plus 18 in marks too, with 5 inside the 50. What does this say? We couldn't get the ball, A, because the Crows were more hungry in contested situations, and B, because they were more responsible with it when possessing a bit more time to dispose. They were able to attack far too easily without being under duress. The keybacks were out of position and couldn't keep up, and the delivery inside the 50 was unbelievably good, not helped by the destruction that was occurring out of stoppages. Let's take a look at some examples which illustrate exactly this. Can I just establish that the Crows played the best first quarter they could have? Incredibly sharp, team-oriented play, smart recognition of personnel in certain situations. That set a solid base. Now, we lost Mitch McGovern prior to the bounce. The way the Crows were carrying the footy, we could have done with a player like him behind the ball to crash the packs or help us control the game a little bit more by taking intercepts as the third man up. The first goal of the game, we pushed some extra numbers into the contest. Now, the minute it got to the outside, we got exposed. The Crows had a solid handball game on the night to get themselves free and move it quickly. Wiedering got sucked into a contest outside the 50, so when the ball enters, Sardi and Akers are the two in the marking contest. You don't have a Mitch McGovern within range to kill it out of bounds. Now, the handball game prevails as they draw numbers, then find the loose, and Rankin on this occasion with a sublime finish. Another example where I think McGovern was missed was this one. They sent it down the line, but JSOS, who's been sent back, is manning Riley Thilthorpe. In an ideal world, you've got someone like a McGovern who can tower over. Instead, you've got Newman, who definitely doesn't specialise as a third man up kind of player, much rather a player who should be the sweeper behind the footy. So you're digging into other resources you need, and in the end, JSOS is not the bloke I want kicking the footy, especially in this kind of manner. Here's another in transition. If Gov is playing, you probably sit him comfortably behind the ball as the spare, especially for situations like these, where you need a bit of insurance in the case that Youngie gets out-muscled. This is where I think Doc was missed as well. Fox Footy outlined pre-game Doc's knack of winning uncontested possessions, which are mostly kicks. This complements the intercept marking of McGovern well. Once you take an intercept, you can go sideways or backwards to a Doc, or potentially he'll be running past. Definitely more measured and smarter with the ball, especially in a game where we looked a bit frantic and couldn't actually look after it for prolonged periods. Uncontested footy would have helped, and Sam Doherty would have helped exactly that. Instead, this is what we got. 27 uncontested possessions in a quarter. Oh my life. Now, I want to talk about Jordan Dawson because his kicking is a weapon that carved us to pieces. Why, after some damage had been done, did the pin not drop to send someone to him and send the attention away from Cripper? I will never know. Quite often, tackles didn't stick, And because we seemed to ball watch or get sucked in, players like Dawson had opportunities to thrive as the ball got dished out to him and he could operate with space being permitted. Here's one from Laird to Dawson, the releasing hand pass. Now, it seemed like we didn't get the balance right, because having played contested footy for a few seconds, there's no way one handball exposes the lack of defensive running so badly. Dawson slips, has time to get up, and the only bloke in pursuit is our ruck. What? The kick is exceptional to Rochelle, who leads up well with a slight hesitation to put off Weeders, and Fogarty does well to divert a potential threat away. Here's a similar example. This kick is clever off the outside. Now, the bounce is ridiculous, but the ball is speared into the 50 nonetheless. Now, when it enters, we look a bit of a mess. The pace in which it enters means the time to communicate is limited. Both Young and Sard leave their man and Wheaters drops behind as the goalkeeper. Akers has got no hope covering for Sardi, especially with the way they've gotten it into the forward 50. Now, once it gets to Tex, we're screwed because none of the players I've mentioned even get remotely close to the man or the footy, and they've sacrificed their assignment. And it's not rocket science that both Young and Sard's assignments both get their share of the footy on their way to a goal. Jordan Dawson provided an all-round contribution and destroyed Cripper. On this, Dawson wasn't scared to break the lines and understood that he indeed was dictating the matchup. You see, it seems that Cripper and Carlton felt like he was getting tagged when really it should have been the other way around. Dawson effortlessly bypasses two, releases Murphy, who draws the man well, and Dawson's support continues the forward thrust. The pace of the transition meant that there was more urgency for Carlton to push backwards and retreat, which actually vacated the space that Dawson was running into, and so he could capably send one in from long range. Now, here's a different aspect to Dawson's game. So first, from the hit out, he anticipates where it's headed and reacts first. Sends it backwards and uses his tendency that he possessed at the Swans to hit those little dinky kicks when sitting behind the stoppage. This kick is so tough because it's lofted, yet he was able to grant Fogarty an uncontested mark surrounded by three because of the placement. That should have been the signal to send someone to him. I mean, that is incredibly dangerous and damaging. One player I actually enjoyed watching for the Crows was Brodie Smith. This guy would run from his mark on the back flank to receive a running hand pass and send the ball one way, forward. This possession highlights the Crows' game plan to overwork us, tire us out, whilst they were willing and on the front foot with this exact mentality and mantra. Smith is not hesitant to swing it across despite the risk. You can see it again here with this possession. Does well to draw the man and provide space for Laird, who can obviously advance it forward. 15 seconds later, he's on the back of the stoppage to send it to Fogarty. And then here, Laird has taken a mark. You'll see at the very edge of the right-hand side of your screen, two blues, hands on hips, heads down. They're walking right past Brodie Smith, who can absolutely slam one on, and he says, I might as well if they're just going to give it to me. Just poor marking and poor understanding of personnel. At the very end of the quarter, you'll see it again. With Dawson and Smith, it's just incredibly smart. They're good kickers, they promote a quick rebound and a forward thrust with their precision and distance they get on their kicks. And with the Crows playing transition-friendly football, handing responsibility to players with good ball use means there'll be plenty of high percentage opportunities, which was 100% the case. There should have been a more conscious effort by the Blues to be physical and prevent them from getting as many kicks as they did, especially in good areas to build an attack. Now, there's plenty we did wrong, and a lot has to do with retaining possession. It seemed like it was go, go, go all the time with no one to say, let's just slow things down and be patient. A couple of times, for example, Akers and Pitto just belt the ball without even getting a hand to it. Wheaters, he punches a ball without anyone near him. Ollie Hollands punches a ball more central right in front of goal. Louis Young handballs it out of play. Ed hand passing it to Newman from a 50, mind you, who's got a crow breathing down his neck and has to rush a barely thought out kick. Might as well have saved the 50-metre penalty for later. Here, Blake Acres spills it and invites pressure. That's what it was, inviting pressure. As if we needed it any more than 67 less touches would indicate. You've also got the infamous Harry Mackay-Charlie Curnow partnership, which I did flag last week in that analysis that they need to stop getting in each other's way. Now here's your weekly dose. Ches makes up his mind last second to kick it, which I guess really paints the picture as to how hot the footy was this early in the game, which is just skyward for both players standing side by side, unable to run and jump because it's sat on their heads. Here's an identical example, the definition of what you absolutely can't do. I just feel like our navigation of certain situations compared to theirs was incredibly subpar. Look, I'll compare 2 examples of ours and 2 examples of theirs. This was the lead up to the Brodie Smith goal. Now, with the zone which we set up, you can find your way through if you nail short kicks, and you can see where they've begun. Obviously, we've set up quite comfortably because the ball isn't, moving with pace. This is an attacking kick by Tex, opened up because Harry's playing zone, and Duday runs central to kill the influence. Carlton set a zone up moments later as Hinge hits Smith. As we've mentioned, Smith loves to kick, and a simple short pass that's piercing kills off the zone. On numerous occasions, they could have bombed it long down the line and been predictable, but the patience is key, and they possess that incredibly well, especially in a scenario like this. And the recognition of personnel is smart. That being Smith carrying the responsibility of the final kick into the 50. Now we switch to our side. About a minute later, props to TDK for not being a passenger on this possession, but Walshy in his first game back has run hard. He needs to get this handball. TDK did well in running away from Brodie Smith to suck him away from Walshy, but the difference between us and them was the IQ. Now Walshy may be able to run in and take a ping at goals. Instead, he's been burnt and TDK has absolutely butchered it. Compare the skills of Smith and TDK kicking wise, and I don't need to say any more really. Now here's a good example. We've swung the play, which is all good and well. Now the Crows have worked their asses off defensively, so credit to them. But on our part, I'd love to see a kick inside. Having conceded 8 first quarter goals, I know the final 3 minutes are about damage control, and our rookie has got the footy, but even a short chip to Asadi or maybe trying to bite off the kick to Ches would definitely change and expand the things we can do with the switch. I just think we need to learn that a switch doesn't necessarily mean you have to push the pace and compromise a bit of composure. Because in the end, we've butchered the advantage anyway and been compressed into the boundary. For contrast, this is what a 38-point lead does to your confidence. Rochelle sends one corridor when it absolutely isn't on, but their defensive recovery is absolutely mental and are able to mask the mistake, so much so that if I cut off the mistake altogether, you wouldn't even know there had been a turnover in the first place. It's also the fumble and the sideways kicking which kill it too, but this is where one of the most drastic differences can be felt and seen. And there you have it. The standards of the Crows and the Blues couldn't have been any more contrasting. The Crows were relentless in transition, agonizingly picked apart the Blues zone, killed them out of the center, and understood where their power lies. The Blues didn't do any of those things. We didn't match the hunger, the intensity, the skill, and the execution of the Crows, which was sky high. I know for sure that if this ignorance happens next game, it's gonna be as nasty as this match. What are your thoughts? What are you most concerned about going into round 6? Show your support and share this bad boy around to any other Blues fans. We'll be back for round 6 analysis after a big game against the Saints. Have a good one and bye for now.